In this lecture, we are going to cover the topics which are related to Railway Board. We will be learning certain important things regarding the Railway Board and Ministry of Railways. In the screen, you may observe certain images. In this image, the Indian Railways lifeline to the nation can be seen easily. This is one of the screenshots from the website of Ministry of Railways. This is the another part of Ministry of Railway website in which you can observe certain important links such as COVID-19 preparedness, Rail Sampark, and various kind of new initiatives which have been taken by Ministry of Railways in current scenario. In India, the rail network is divided into various kind of segments according to the parts of the nation and the direction of nation. Out of various segments, certain railway segments such as Southeastern Railway, Southwestern Railway, Southern Railway, West Central Railway, Western Railway, Metro Railway from Kolkata, Metro Railway from Delhi, and nowadays one of the metros from Gujarat which is called as Gujarat Metro is also in the headlines. I have shown certain symbols according to various states and their correlated railway which are being operated. Now let us talk about the evolution. Evolution means the beginning or the development. The first railway on Indian subcontinent ran over the stretch of 21 miles from Bombay to Thane. And maybe you all are well aware of that fact. The idea of a railway to connect Bombay with Thane, Kalyan and with the Thal and Bore Gust inclines first occurred to Mr. George Clark. He is the person, or he was the person who was the chief engineer of the Bombay government during his visit to the Bhandup in 1843. He had the thought to evolve Indian railways. The first formal inauguration ceremony was performed on 16th April 1853 when 14 railway carriages carrying about 400 guests left Boribandar at 3:30 p.m. I have already mentioned the detailed criteria in the overview scenario of the rail transport lecture. The first passenger train steamed out of Howrah station which destined from Hooghly. The distance was 24 miles and it was run on 15th August 1854. Hence, the first section of the East Indian Railway was opened to the public traffic, inaugurating the beginning of the railway transport on the eastern side of the subcontinent. In the southern part, in south, the first line was opened on 1st July 1856. 1st July 1856 by Madras Railway Company. It ran between the stations called as Vyaspardi Jeevan Nilayam means Vyasar Pandi and Valja Road, Arcot, and the distance covered at that time was about approximate 63 miles. In the north, a length of 119 miles of the line was laid from Allahabad to Kanpur on 3rd March of 1859. The first section from Hadras to Mathura cantonment was opened to traffic on 19th October 1875. Now you all may be wondering that there are number of dates, number of stations and number of actual datas are present in this particular slide. So don't get confused. You do not need to memorize any of these dates or datas. You just have to keep one thing in your mind, that the first railway was ran on 16th April 1853 and the thought of running the railway in India was developed by Mr. George Clark, who was the chief engineer of the Bombay government during his visit to Bhandup in 1843. So this was about evolution. Now let us look towards the history of Indian Railways. Now you may be wondering that the topic is about Railway Board, and here I am talking about the Ministry of Railways. Now what is the correlation between two of these agencies? So let me tell you that Ministry of Railway is the first parent organization and Railway Board is one of its hierarchical organization. Let us move towards the history of Indian Railways. There is a huge history which is involved in the Ministry of Railway, or I should say Railway Board, but out of ample amount of data, I will discuss certain important segments, such as in 1901. What was happened in 1901? So in 1901, on the recommendation of Sir Thomas Robertson Committee, Sir Robert Thomson Committee. Sir Robert Thomson Committee regarding the administration and working of the railways, an early version of the Railway Board was constituted. Means the first version of Railway Board was constituted in 1901, which initially had only 3 members. Then in 1905, its powers were formalized by Lord Curzon's government. You might have heard the name of Lord Curzon in your social science subject while you were studying in your schools. So in 1905, the Railway Board, which was constituted in 1901, its powers were distributed or diverted towards, and they were formalized by the Lord Curzon's government. Its membership constituted of government railway official who was the chairman of the board, and a railway manager from England, and an agent of a company railway. The board was placed under the Department of Commerce and Industry of the British Indian government. So this was about 1905. Now let us discuss about 1921. In 1921, the reorganization of Railway Board was carried out, and a Chief Commissioner of Railway was appointed, who was solely responsible for the government for decisions on technical matters and for advising the government for how to formalize the new policies. Then in 1929, an additional post at the member level was added to the board. It was given responsibility for the staff, so that the member in charge of traffic could also focus on the transport and commercial matters. During this time, Frank D'Souza became the first Indian member of the board, and in 2019, the Union Cabinet decided to reduce the size of the board, and it was reduced to 8 from 8 to 5. It also decided to merge its different cadres into single railway management service. The newly constituted board will have the members of operation, business development, human resources, and infrastructure and finance. So friends, this was about the brief history of Indian Railways or Ministry of Railways or the Railway Board. Now there are certain interesting facts that we need to discover or that we need to know. First is that the Indian Railway is the premier transport organization of the country. It is the largest rail network in the Asia. In Asia, it is the largest. And as far as the world's data is concerned, it stands on the second largest under one management. So this is one of the most, what I can say, pride thing we should feel about the Indian Railway. Proud thing we should feel. And The another point is that Indian Railways run around 11,000 trains every day, out of which 7,000 are passenger trains. So you can imagine that how much amount of traffic the Indian Railways are transporting from one place to another place on daily basis. So these were about certain important facts. Indian Railway is a multi-gauge, multi-traction system which covers the following sections: broad gauge, meter gauge, narrow gauge, and these are the routes in the kilometers which are given over here. Now let us look towards the corporate overview of Railway Board or Ministry of Railway. The Ministry of Railways, central government minister, central minister for railways currently is Shri Piyush Goyal ji, and the Minister of State for Railways is Shri Suresh Channa Basappa ji. Now the Ministry of Railways is categorized into two segments. It manages two parts. First is the State of Railways and second is the State of Railways G and S. Now the Railway Board hierarchy or the managerial hierarchy of the Railway Board is as follow. This is the first management level of Chairman Railway Board. Then various kind of traffic, staff, engineering, traction, rolling stock and commissioner members are there, which is covered under the categories of various kind of director journals. And then it further categorized into zonal railways, production units, other units and certain corporations, railway corporations. So this was about Indian Railway or Ministry of Railways. I hope you have got the glimpse. Thank you so much for being attentive.